All right, good morning, guys, and welcome to Winning U.S. Open. Me with my partner, Mark Jeffrey. I'm Ramon Osa, and today, guys, we're going to be kicking off a very exciting couple of weeks, at least here in the U.S. for tennis. The U.S. Open is by far, I think, the biggest event here across the pond, as my partner would say. And over the next couple of weeks, guys, we're going to be going over some really exciting things for you. And what are these insights around the game of tennis that we can learn from these Grand Slam champions and the runners-up, and what does it mean for you? So with that, I'd like to welcome in my partner, Mark Jeffrey. Mark, how you doing today?
Very good, thank you, Ramon. What a great thing this is for us. We really enjoy doing this. This is not a job. As you know, I've just come back from Lisbon, Portugal, where some of our extraordinary peats were taking part in the World Championships for their age group, the World Team Championships, the World Individual Champs. And it was, I'm only saying this because it's equivalent to the US Open, really. It was fabulous being there, being amongst all the different nationalities. I think there were 60 there, cultures, languages, and what I took away from it is that, and it's something we've talked about previously, if they had tennis player on your passport, it would immediately say you're a great person. Because virtually everybody there of different languages and ages, when you just got beneath the surface, were fantastic human beings. It was just such a great joy to be there. Which brings us really to the US Open. And as you said, it's the highlight, along with the other Grand Slams, it's the highlight of the year. For many people, it might be their first and only touch. And I think, I could be wrong, I often am, but the 4 Grand Slams contribute to something like 80% of the available money in tennis. So it's a huge deal.
Absolutely. And as we get into sort of the draw and we start looking at some of the people that, we consider as favorites to win the championship. And one of the things that we're going to talk about today, and the promise of this live stream for you all watching at home, is what are those skills that we know that the Grand Slam champion, the eventual champions, are going to have, and that the runners-up more than likely are going to be lacking in some way. And we're probably not going to give away our projections of who's going to win. But Mark, let's talk about sort of what are those foundational skills that these champions are going to have. And I know you've got one that you'd like to start off with.
Well, yeah, we have. So the aim the aim of winning US Open is to talk about, dissect the winning skills, aspects that humbly and hopefully nobody else is talking about, and bring it to competitive amateurs to learn, train, and implement so they can be like the Grand Slam winners. And we have 2 tips for today. One is about foundational fitness. So a bit later on in Winning US Open, we will be interviewing one of our own who's made huge progress over the last 5 years and more to come, who is the doctor for the WTA Tour. And she'll be talking about foundational fitness and how you can train it and put it into your body. Because what she's found out, and what we know also on the men's tour, is that people train at the top of the pyramid. The strength and conditionings, by and large, unless you have somebody very knowledgeable and can lead the discussion within your group, too often the experts on whatever they may be, their voice is drowned out. So they train at the top of the pyramid, but the foundational fitness is not in. So at some stage they'll break down.
And what's great about this, and I know exactly what you're referring to, is really a foundation for movement. And this game is so much obviously about movement. It's so physical. And I think what I'm hearing you say is, and what you were alluding to, is that we kind of get obsessed with creating strength and power and agility. But if our foundation is faulty, and you'll see it in the first round, a lot of people possibly, unfortunately, defaulting because their foundation wasn't in and they were overtraining. And I think especially as our crew is mostly in their 50s and 60s and onward, that doesn't mean that you can't develop a foundation of movement later in life. And in fact, Dr. Aaron, who will be on with us, has a fantastic protocol that can be done in minutes a day, that'll really set you up for success, long-term success on the court. So I'm really excited to have her, and you guys are going to love meeting her because she walks the talk and she is competing at the highest level in her age group. And wasn't always that way, and you'll get to meet her. Anything else to say, Mark, about the fitness standpoint?
Well, only that with a sort of inside track, I know of 3 people that are not fit enough to be at the US Open.
And 2 of them are in this room right now.
I was going to say, speak for yourself, Ramon, but as you know, I've gone through rehab. I'm in recovery mode. Yeah, but you get, I think it's right in saying $100,000 for turning up in the first round, which is not unreasonable, because to break into the world's top 100 from the hundreds out there, no, is a massive achievement. And you've either done that because you've been invited, or you've qualified for the qualies and you've fought your way through qualies. So 100 grand for turning up is, is not outrageous. But compared to what you might earn in the rest of the 11-month circuit, $100,000 is $100,000. So people may well be tempted to do all they can to step onto court for the first match or the first 2 weeks, knowing that their body's not in good order and may break down. So this is the first thing for everybody to look at the first week, men's and women's draw, and see who or how many don't make it through the first match.
And Vlado Platnik, who's going to be on with us tomorrow, who is a Grand Slam development coach. I mean, this guy has taken multiple men and women on the ATP Tour and WTA and taken them from relative obscurity, top 300, top 400. And
forget relative, Ramon, taken from obscurity, no ranking points and no money.
And into the top 100, top 50, top 20. And he said, when we talked, he said, the first thing that he works with people on is fitness, because that is the biggest lever that we can pull, that everything else gets better. So that's a huge, huge thing. And I think we often, as people who have careers and families and things going on, we think, oh, well, I don't have an hour a day to get to the gym. And fortunately, what you'll learn from Dr. Aaron when we bring her in and she discusses her protocol for restoring foundational movement patterns that you can do in a few minutes a day on a free app that she'll be sharing with you guys, is that you can very quickly set yourself up for success without spending hours a day at the gym, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and it's been quite a significant part of my recovery. And you've used it, Ramon?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we've all, if we've played tennis long enough, we know that our bodies develop imbalances. And I had low back issues. I had, shoulder issues. I had a torn rotator cuff. And using this protocol that Dr. Aaron's going to share with you a little bit later on in the championships, been able to fully restore myself and get back into competition. And Mark, your story is nothing short of miraculous. So for those of you that don't know, Mark had a stroke almost 2 years ago now, which is unbelievable.
Stroke makes it sound so nice, doesn't it? We had a nice stroke.
Not the kind of stroke that we like to talk about.
You should call it, if I was doing their marketing strategy, I would call it brain attack.
It was a brain attack, and it was obviously scary and traumatic. And, Mark was, holed up in a hospital room, couldn't walk a couple years ago. And now you are back
You still
darn near
can't win.
full strength. No, it's been incredible. So the human spirit is an amazing thing. And one of the things that we want to provide you guys, aside from some, comedic relief from time to time, is really actionable strategies that you can use to go out and win more matches. And that's everything what this next 2 weeks is about, both in terms of tactics, in terms of maybe your technique, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then really the invisible skills, get into your identity and what you say to yourself out on the court. I know that can be a very chaotic place for a lot of people, where those voices start creeping in. So, Mark, I'd love to jump ahead now and talk about one of the technical skills that you're going to see on full display at the U.S. Open. That most people.
It's our second deselector, yeah. Like, if you spot this happening, they may go far, but they ain't going to win.
That's it. And, you hear a lot about forehand technique and backhand technique and serve power and separation angles and lag and snap and all these fancy terms. But there is one skill that trumps all of them, that you're going to notice as soon as you go out and watch the next match. And I want you guys to pay attention to the player's eyes. Okay, so obviously we use our eyes a lot in playing tennis, unless you're a Jedi. And the eyes are so critical. But if you look at, say, 100 still images of the top 100 players in the world on a typical shot, take a forehand, a backhand, a serve, and you freeze the frame at the point of contact, look at the player's eyes. And what you're going to see, let me see, this might be a little bit risky here, Mark, but I'm going to see if I can pull up
Alcaraz, age 10.
Picture. Yeah. Let me see if I can do this without screwing everything up.
That would be amazing. I wouldn't even attempt to do it.
Got a photo here of Coco Gauff.
Oh.
Or I thought I did. Bear with me for 1 second, guys. Okay. So let's look at the and you can see my screen okay, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks for sticking with us here, guys. This is live, and
well, we just wanted to do this to let everybody know this is authentic and live.
All right. For some reason, where is this picture? Oh, there we go. So now here is a very good player, and you guys can see this.
Yeah.
So Coco has a tremendous serve. She's got a tremendous game, but look at her eyes here. Now, what Lenny will tell you when Lenny Schloss comes on, who is Billie Jean King's front-hand man, who did a study. It looked at 1,000 tennis players of all ages and all ability levels. And he found out that amateur tennis players are off balance 90% of the time when they're practicing. And that led to them mishitting about 80% of balls. And these are amateur players, but even the pros.
You mean by off balance, Ramon?
Yeah, great question, Mark. So basically, when the eyes shift during the point of contact, the head tends to shift. And the head, which is this 14-pound bowling ball at the top of your head, is hugely responsible for our balance. And so you can see Coco's head dropping here, and that causes her hip to go backwards. And there's a break in the kinetic chain. And so when we're off balance, we're at huge risk. And if you compare this with Roger as an example, as sort of a poster child, look at his head. Okay, his head's going right up towards the point of contact, and he's got this perfect line from his feet to his hips, out to his shoulders, up to the ball, to his head, where he is fully connected at the point of contact. And not only does this have biomechanical effects, but it has a huge deal to do with your focus, because where your eyes are is where your focus is. So if your eyes are off the point of contact, your focus is literally in the future, and you've lost the present moment. You've lost the most important part during the ball strike. And this goes for every shot in the game. I can show you picture after picture of really
One
amazing
of Alcaraz
players.
you can dig up of age 10. Can you get a hold of that or not?
I don't think I have that handy, Mark, but we
Well,
will
we'll
show
do it
that
next
in
time.
future. And let me stop screen share here. So this is really important for you guys, because as you go through and you watch the championships, you're going to see a lot of slow motion footage. And I want you guys to pay really close attention to the player's eyes and notice how likely the player is to lose concentration and lose focus at a really pivotal point in the match, and see if you can make the correlation between what their eyes are doing during the point. And I think you'll be shocked. You'll notice that darn near all of them are doing this. But Alcaraz, Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, Ash Barty, Ons Jabeur, these players are dialed in at the point of contact. And it has huge implications for the quality of their stroke, but also the quietness of their mind. And as we know, tennis is such a mental game, or it can be such a mental game. And anything that Lenny will go over with you guys, and Lenny has really gone down the rabbit hole on this about instincts, anything that gets in the way of your focus during the point makes you more at risk for errors. And so the eyes really do tell the story. Mark, what have you noticed in training, hundreds of competitive amateur tennis players as sort of common threads that you've seen and common issues?
That's a lovely question to ask. So going around the courts last week during the team and the individual events, most people, and these are the world's best amateurs, okay? So most people, forehand and serve, were looking either at the 3-foot car crash, which is when the forehand, you see the ball coming to you, see the ball coming to you, see the ball coming to you, and then about 3 feet away, and you look, I don't know, to where you're going to hit the ball or where your opponent is. But the only thing that counts when you know about it is the ball hitting the strings. And so we call it the 3-foot car crash. And most people, bar one, and I'm going to come to this, bar one, were not looking at the ball on the strings, particularly for the serve, because the tendency to, as you said earlier, to looking ahead into the future for the opponent's return of serve, and the desire to get most people were looking straight down the court. So there was this one girl from Sweden called Maria that was only a slight girl, but was hitting her forehand and her backhand, but her forehand in particular, with immense venom, deep, no pace, the ball just sitting there, the most difficult thing to hit, and boom, and she put a lot of top on it, hit it wherever she wanted to do it. It hit the ground, reared up, and people had to hit through the spin, and she did extraordinarily well. And I grabbed her afterwards to say, hey, there aren't that many people that hit the ball like you. And she said, all I do during the match is focus on this side of the ball and concentrate on having a clean hit. That's all I do. So pressure, big points, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And Mark, the semifinals.
You said something so important. I just want everybody to really get this. We talk about the 3-foot car crash and what that means. So as the ball is coming to your side of the net, there's 3 things that your eye has to do. It has to scan, it has to track, and it has to focus. And scanning is kind of keeping your eye on the other side of the net, kind of seeing where the ball is going to come. Then as it's struck, you're tracking it, and that's when your footwork comes in. And during the last 3 feet, it takes an incredible amount of focus to keep your eyes centered over the point of contact. And this is when 99% of amateur tennis players lose their focus and their eyes start shifting into the future. And what this means to your brain on the tennis court is there's a car crash. It is a neurological nightmare to have to hit a ball when you can't see it. Essentially, we're hitting blind is the upshot. And so we're going to be talking with Lenny about practical ways for you to start to fix this and to start to put this into your game. And when this happens, automatically you're going to hit the ball more solidly because your focus is at the point of contact. But also your body is going to be in better alignment, which means you're not going to be fighting yourself as much to get more power and more spin, a better consistency and better accuracy. And the last thing, which I think is probably the most exciting, is it keeps your mind quiet during the most important part of the stroke. So if you guys are watching this right now on Facebook, on YouTube, or LinkedIn, and you have any questions, we're on a third-party streaming software, and not all of those platforms get comments. But if you have any questions for me and Mark, feel free to leave them on your on the platform that you're watching on, and we will be with you guys in the comments in the future, answering any questions that you guys have. So again, this is Winning US Open. Mark and I are so excited to be with you on this, guys. We are incredibly passionate about helping you and everybody that needs our help get to a level in their game where they feel fulfilled, they feel peace and joy. The whole reason you got into tennis in the first place was because it was fun. And I know for a lot of us that, take this game seriously, we get incredibly frustrated when things don't go our way. And so we want to give you guys really actionable tools to help you really rediscover that peace and that fun, and obviously get a lot more wins in the process. Mark, if you would, tomorrow we're going to have a very special guest, and I want you to tell us about him, because you've known him for quite a while, and what people are going to get at tomorrow's show.
Great. So with all our guests, the trick is to see what Grand Slam winners do, or at least people that are in the Grand Slam, and pivot that into what us competitive amateurs can learn, train, and implement. And the phrase is play like Grand Slam winners, because we look at Grand Slam people and they're the top of their profession, and particularly the winners, and just think, okay, that's something you can do, has got no relevance to me. So this is the whole aspect of it. So Vlado Platinic, as Ramon said, probably the world's leading Grand Slam development coach, which means taking people from obscurity and no money in their bank account to qualify for the top 100 and then onwards. So just understand, it really takes something to break out of the army of wannabes to get into the top 100. And if you are known as a top 100 player and you go around to these tournaments, people, it's like, oh my God, she's a top 100 player. Well, so the questioning to Vlado is, well, what do you do for these, and it's mainly ladies that he trains, that amateur tennis players can do as well? So the probability is that you guys and girls have been in the same peer group year on year for as long as you can remember. Wouldn't it be amazing if there was something you could learn and train and implement so you broke up into a new peer group? And the reason why people tend to play with the same level of people year in, year out is that everybody trains in the same way. When you think about it, it's laughable. So if you train in the same way, you're going to get very similar results. And when you're stuck, you're stuck. So you can quite comfortably break into a new peer group. You just need to train in a different way. So Vlado is going to be speaking about that tomorrow, and I advise you not to miss it.
Outstanding. And you guys, Vlado is not only a tremendous coach, but an amazing human being. And as we mentioned earlier, he has a formula that he has used repeatedly. So a lot of really great coaches can take a player from obscurity into the top 20. Vlado has done it multiple times. And once might be an accident, twice could be a coincidence. But when someone has done something time after time after time, he has got some wisdom. So you guys are not going to want to miss that interview with Vlado tomorrow. And in the meantime, guys, we are, again, Mark and myself are dedicated to helping you in every way that we can get the results that you're looking for on and off the tennis court as they relate to your game. So if you guys have any questions, if you're watching this on a replay or you have something you'd like us to cover in one of the 14 live streams that we'll be doing over the course of the US Open, feel free to put that down in the comments and share this live stream with anybody that you think will benefit from this. We want to help get this information out to as many players as possible because, frankly, there are way too many frustrated tennis players out there that feel like they're alone because tennis, again, could be a lonely sport. And one of the reasons Mark and I formed this alliance is so that we can really start to build a community of tennis players and what we've done in the Winning Academy that are going through the trials and tribulations that tennis players go through, but have the support and the peers to really lean on. And that's one of the amazing things that, Mark, that you've brought to the Winning Academy that we bring to our players. And we can't wait to share that with you guys.
Ramon, can I give a little shout out to our expert guests, which will also trigger some questions from the audience? Can I do that? So we got Vlado Platinic on tomorrow. We also have a legendary development coach and an innovator within the world of tennis called Fernando Segal, who will be talking and discussing kind of the most important part is training to close out so that you can close out. And we all train beginning, and many of us train rallies. Very few of us train closing out. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's quite easy to get to the line. It's much more difficult to cross the winning line. So we have Fernando. We have Conrad Singh. So now based in the UK, and sorry, what am I talking about? Based in the USA, but has trained in the UK, trained in China, grew up in Australia, one of the world's elite tennis coaches, and a proven track record in America of creating juniors to be the best player and the best person they can be. And always his juniors managed to get into the US Open and the other Grand Slam Opens, and occasionally get to the finals and occasionally win. So Conrad's going to be with us to talk about how your sons and daughters can be the best version of themselves and transition into adulthood. So you don't want to miss Conrad or Fernando. We have Daniel Gallucci, one of the world's top neuroscientists. And whilst he might be a nerd, he also spent some time in martial arts, cage fighting, and a professional football player. He's been training and obsessed with the brain for 20 years and is the first person to say, Mark, we know so little about the brain. So he's coming to talk about pressure, story, trauma, and how we can train ourselves to be the best person we can be under pressure. We have Ken DeHart. I would say probably no one has more tennis qualifications than Ken. And Ken, inside the brain of a Grand Slam winner when it becomes winning. So we've got a few more as well, and I hope those give you a clue as to what's coming down the line and prompts you for any great questions.
Well, it's going to be an outstanding couple of weeks. A lot of really good tennis being played. You guys, it has been so much fun being with you today. If you have any questions that Mark and I didn't get to today, leave them down in the comments on the platform that you're watching. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys back here tomorrow. Thank you so much, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Ramon.
See you guys soon.